Jasmine Crockett was on fire again today in Congress. Yesterday, I made a video about her silencing Donald Trump's FBI director, Kash Patel, by listing off all of his failures, and he had no response. He had no answer to Jasmine Crockett. That video blew up and got over 500,000 views. In today's video, Jasmine Crockett is going to list off all the crimes that Donald Trump has committed and list off all of the heinous criminals who he's pardoned.
I want you to tell me whether or not it's lawful or lawless, ignoring court orders.
That's lawless.
Impounding congressional funds.
Violates the law.
Invoking emergency powers when there is no emergency.
Unlawful.
Sending troops without an invite.
Violates the law.
Covering for pedophiles. I just threw that one in there. Okay, I'll move to the next one. What about revoking birthright citizenship?
Violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about violating due process?
Violates the 5th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about what we see happening with redistricting that would in some way minimize, if not delete, the voices of people of color as they are going through and illegally going through this process? Is there a constitutional amendment that you can think of that is associated with that?
Probably many, but it is unlawful and unconstitutional and un-American.
Thank you. As well as, can you tell me if it is lawful or lawless to violate free speech?
That's lawless.
Okay, sounds about right, because, you know, we had to have a conversation about Jimmy Kimmel, so I'm going to say free Jimmy Kimmel for sure, and hopefully we will deal with the FCC chairman. But the reason that I wanted to go through that long list, and that was actually not even the half of it, is because since this administration has come in on January 20th, they have engaged in some form of every single thing that I said on that list, even the part about covering for pedophiles. So my question is, why are we sitting here today? Number one, they already passed their bootleg laws, and it's clear that even the bill author is not well informed about what his bill does. Because as has already been stated, at the age of 18, you are an adult. So this idea that somehow 21-year-olds were now somehow juveniles under DC law, is that accurate or inaccurate?
It was inaccurate, misunderstood the way the law works.
Correct. Could not understand how to read the law and decided that they were going to rewrite the law and mess up the law. And to be clear, we were talking about judges being able to have enough discretion to decide whether or not they were going to give someone an opportunity maybe to clean their record, such as the bill author was given that opportunity under Florida law because his second felony was picked up when he was 21, to be clear. So he was older than 18. And under this law, if you were under, 25, so 24 or under, then the judges had discretion, correct?
But only in certain kinds of cases, not the most serious cases. And in fact, that discretion was, as we know, exercised very rarely. And it would have been an opportunity had the Congress wanted to talk with the folks who are involved in applying that law and seeing how it works, to understand that this is not a law that's out of sync with other states, and it's working.
Thank you so much. And the reason that it matters is because now the gentleman from Florida is trying to become a governor, and chances are maybe DC, once they get statehood, could have had a future governor that had a second chance. But since they don't want other people to have chances that they've been given, they want to just pretend like they are bigger and better and badder than. So I will move on because I am frustrated that we are having this hearing when we know that this administration can't take care of their own business. As we know, they recently illegally bombed yet another Venezuelan boat, and we may be headed for a war. We know that this particular president has decided that he wants to shake down people as relates to the First Amendment, because he has filed not one lawsuit, not two lawsuits, but he has filed numerous lawsuits. He filed a lawsuit against the New York Times. He filed one against the Wall Street Journal, against CBS, against ABC, against the Des Moines Register. He is doing all of this because he wants to quash any speech that is not appreciative or lauding him, which is pretty much anything that's factual. So let's talk a few facts about these January 6th felons that should still be incarcerated because they went through the process, but because they were doing things on his behalf, Of course, he wanted to let them go. So they released more than 1,000 people who participated in the insurrection on this government, many of whom who had previous criminal records, like Mr. Theodore Mindenforth, who was convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child, or Mr. Peter Schwartz, who had 38 prior convictions, including one where he beat his wife by repeatedly punching and biting her. Trump also pardoned Mr. David Daniel, who was convicted of production and possession of child pornography. Trump also pardoned Mr. Daniel Ball, who, quote, threw an explosive device that detonated upon at least 25 officers during the Capitol riot. He also had a record for, quote, domestic violence by strangulation. I'm not done. Trump also pardoned Mr. Andrew Taki, who sent nudes to an undercover law enforcement officer who was posing as a 15-year-old girl. Mr. Casey Hopkins also received a pardon from Trump, and Mr. Hopkins was convicted of forcible rape. According to court records, he, quote, had forcible intercourse with the victim, choked her to the point of impairing her vision, banged her head into a wall, and urinated into the victim's mouth as he humiliated her. These are the people that he decided to release in the streets of D.C. So if anybody does need to clean up D.C., I would agree it is this man, because he is the one that is causing half the crime that we have. Not only is he participating in the crime, but we know that he instigated the insurrection. And if I did say that I had one issue with the Biden-Harris administration, it is the fact that they did not move forward and make sure that this man was put where he should have been put. Because the last time I checked as a criminal defense attorney, and Mr. Attorney General, you may have a different experience, but I never had a defendant that had 34 convictions for felonies and did not spend one day in jail. Never in my life. And the last time I checked, the party of law and order is the only one that decided that they would be out of order and decided to nominate someone who was not only indicted but was actually convicted of multiple felonies. That has never happened in this country, and it is a shame that we are dealing with it now, and now he wants to tell y'all how to do your jobs.
Okay.
There was also a great moment from a committee today where Eric Swalwell called on the FCC and the executives over at ABC to hold on to all of their documents, because once Democrats get back control of Congress, they're going to be investigating the whole Jimmy Kimmel saga that we're experiencing right now. Here's Eric Swalwell.
What does the hat say, Eric?
Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Of course. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'll get to AI in a moment, but I'm not going to miss the opportunity to ask my colleagues, the proponents of free speech across the aisle and the champions who sit with me, to condemn in the harshest terms what is happening right now from our administration. The second late-night comedian has been taken off the air because the president did not like a joke. I want to first condemn in the harshest tones the murder of Charlie Kirk. He should be with his family right now. He should be with his children. He should be alive. He had a right to say what he wanted to say to who he wanted to say without any physical violence being brought his way. And Jimmy Kimmel had a right to say what he said, which didn't in any way suggest that somebody in the MAGA world had been responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. He was just pointing out what folks online were doing as Twitter detectives before any investigation had been completed were saying about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And then he pointed out that Donald Trump, who did not go to Kirk's memorial service at the Kennedy Center over the weekend, when he was asked how he was feeling about the assassination, did not address it, but rather went right to a construction project. And for that, Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air. That's not who we are. That's what it looks like in China. That's what it looks like in Russia. That can't be what it looks like in America. And the foundation of this, the genesis of this, was the president's FCC chairperson, Brandon Carr, sending a tweet that said, essentially, and giving an interview to a podcaster where he said, essentially, if ABC doesn't want to do this the easy way and suspend Jimmy Kimmel, we will do it the hard way, and it would be government censorship. Maybe I was not loud enough in the past when Republicans spoke out against government censorship. And if that's the case, I will go back and revisit whether I could have been louder. But that does not mean that today Republicans are silent just in an effort to own the libs. If you didn't like cancel culture when you thought it was happening in prior administrations, you certainly can't look at what just happened in our country and accept that that is something we should live with and we should tolerate. So I want to make it clear, there's going to be a Democratic majority in just over a year. And to the FCC chairperson and anyone involved in these dirty deals, get a lawyer and save your records, because you're going to be in this room and you're going to be answering questions about the deals that you struck and who benefited and what the cost was to the American people because that happened.
The reason why I included Eric Swalwell's warning to ABC executives and the FCC chair in this video is because that same logic can be applied to all of the crimes that Jasmine Crockett listed in the beginning. Once Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives, they are going to launch investigation after investigation into all of Donald Trump's crimes. And when you start to understand that, when you start to see that Donald Trump is going to have to face the consequences of his actions, that justice will be served, you really start to understand why he wants to be the fascist authoritarian, why he wants to run for another term, why he wants to be king, why, if it were up to Donald Trump, he would just get rid of elections from here on out. Because Donald Trump wants to die in office so that he can avoid the consequences of his actions, so that he can avoid justice.